Hey y'all, I'm Carrie,
Hey y'all, I'm Mandy.
and this is Monstrous. This episode contains topics and language that may not be suitable for all listeners, and topics that may be triggering to some. Listener discretion is advised. Our Monday episode,
Yup.
halfway to October.
I know, it's crazy.
Got my Halloween decorations pulled out. They're not up yet, but they're pulled out.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm. Mike bought me a cauldron yesterday.
Did he? You have to show it to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it bubbles and it lights up. And
Is
it
it
has
big?
fog. No, it's not like super big. Like I could put it on my kitchen table.
Oh, nice.
Yep, and it has fog that comes out of it.
Oh, that's cool. I'll have to see it when I come over.
Yep, it looks so cool. Okay, so anyway, today I have a cursed item for you.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. It's one that we all know thanks to one specific famous movie and one of the most infamous shipwrecks in history. Today, we are going to talk about the curse of the Hope Diamond.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm. You know which movie I'm talking about?
Titanic?
Yep. A big old blue thing. So this gem has fascinated and terrified people for centuries. It is a stone of such beauty, clarity, and size that it seems almost otherworldly. Its deep hypnotic blue glow with a fire that seems alive, catching the eye and refusing to let go. But woven into those sparkling depths are stories of misfortune, tragedy, and whispers of a curse. Some say the Hope Diamond carries a supernatural weight, a force that brings ruin to those who dare to possess it. Kings and queens, socialites and collectors, even heirs of great fortune, have all fell into the shadow after the diamond entered their lives. So was it a coincidence or was it something much darker? The diamond's history is as turbulent as its legend. Stolen during the chaos of the French Revolution, it vanished for decades before reemerging in a new form, reshaped as though to disguise its bloody past. Each time it's surfaced, it has left another trail of loss behind it: death, bankruptcy, betrayal, and despair. So, over this episode, we're going to trace its journey from the mines of India to the courts of France, across Victorian London, and finally to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. Along the way, we're going to uncover tales of mysterious illnesses, strange accidents, and spectral visions that have only strengthened its reputation as one of the most cursed objects in history. Now, remember, this is storytelling, but it is rooted in both history and folklore. Some of the tragedies tied to the Hope Diamond are indisputable. Others come as whispers, legends that have been passed down, embroidered, and even magnified. But yet, when you place them side by side, they form a very chilling picture that is hard to dismiss. So, take a deep breath. Picture that giant blue diamond in your mind's eye, the mesmerizing blue glow, its brilliance unmatched, its presence undeniable. Because today, we are going to step into a world where wealth and beauty are bound to darkness. This is the story of the Hope Diamond, a jewel that doesn't just reflect light. Some say it also reflects death. So the story of the Hope Diamond begins not in a glittering palace or museum, but deep underground in the ancient Wakanda diamond fields of southern India, a place that produced some of the world's most famous stones and a folklore all of its own. For centuries, the Golconda and the Kalur mines in particular yielded extraordinary gems, the Tavernier blue among them. And local belief treated these stones as more than just property. To many people who lived by these mines, these diamonds were fragments of the earth's soul, objects touched by the divine. And removing one of these stones without ritual reverence was said to invite nothing but misfortune. That cultural context followed every major Golconda diamond as it traveled west. And it's part of why the Hope Diamond story has always been told as more than just a business transaction. So, sometime in the mid 1600s, a remarkable blue crystal was uncovered there. It was large, irregular, and an oddity among diamonds, specifically because of its color. Early accounts and then later retellings describe it variously as being pried from the eye of a temple idol or found during a routine mining. Either way, whether it's legend or fact, the story framed that the stone was sacred. And then in some tellings, theft from a sacred setting invited nothing but a curse. European eyes could not fail to notice the stone. It was described by contemporaries as a quote, beautiful violet of enormous size. So the diamond was later converted into modern measurements, so what we use today, and it was roughly 115 carats for the raw Tavernier blue diamond.
Damn.
Yeah. So it was huge,
Yeah.
way bigger than what it is today. So the combination of size and the rare blue tint made it unique in the 17th century. Gem markets wanted the diamond as much as anybody wants it today, to be honest.
Mhm.
And then and this sets the stage for the dramatic voyages that would then follow after the diamond was found. The diamond came to Europe in the hands of Jean Baptiste Tavernier. Tavernier. So that is where it gets its original name. So it's not always been named the Hope Diamond. When it first came to Europe, it was the Tavernier blue. So the intrepid French gem merchant whose 6 voyages to Asia brought him nothing but riches, royal patronage, and a formidable reputation. So this guy was well known for going to Asia and coming back with all kinds of gems. Tavernier described the stone in print and to sold it on to the French crown. So he had it, then he sold it for a shit ton of money to the French royals. Contemporaries later called that rough crystal the Tavernier blue. Legends about him and the gem multiplied quickly. Romantic retelling said that the stone had been taken from a deity and that Tavernier himself met a grisly fate in Russia when he was mauled by wild dogs.
Oh.
hmm This made for a very neat and tidy origin tale of that supernatural reputation. Modern scholarships, however, demonstrate that the story is not reliable. He did die in 1689 after many years of traveling and doing business, and the lurid details of being torn apart by dogs appear to later be an embellishment rather than. Either way, whether fact or fiction, the myth stuck, and it became the very first thread in a very long tapestry that would come to be called the Hope Curse. So once in France, the stone was recut on royal orders and then entered into the French crown as the French blue, also known as La Bleu de France. The court jeweler reshaped the Tavernier's rough weight down to be a more brilliant form, so much smaller than the 115 carats. Historic inventories and later analysis put this cutting of the French blue down to about 68 or 69 carats.
Wow.
So they cut quite a bit off.
Yeah.
It was then set into jewels, ceremonial pieces worn by Louis XIV and later on his descendants. And they cut it for that specific reason, so it could be put in different jewel pieces. The gem glittered under candlelight. It threw off an unusual blue-violet shimmer that contemporaries found almost supernatural. Writers said that it, quote, drank in the light, and it returned a strange, steely glow. The French court wore the gem at its most public moments, and almost at once misfortune seemed to orbit it. Premature deaths among heirs, court intrigues, and the slow erosion of fortunes in a dynasty that would end violently in the French Revolution. Whether by coincidence or meaning, Those stories hardened into the Hope legend. So the French Revolution provided the dramatic rupture that turned rumor into mystery. In September 1792, thieves broke into the Royal Garde Meuble, I believe is how you say it, and they looted the crown jewels in an organized raid. Among the missing treasures was the French blue. The jewel vanished from public record for decades, and the chaos of this theft intensified that lore. Guards, dealers, and would-be possessors who surfaced in the robbery's aftermath were all reported in some account to meet violent or untimely deaths. And stories of ruined jewelers and ruined families proliferated. The theft made the blue diamond an absence that haunted the public's imagination. A lost, dangerous object whose name survived even when the stone itself could not be found.
That's wild.
Yep. Is this gem is fucking crazy, dude. I have a new theory about the Titanic. Just saying, guys. I don't know if you're on the same page as me yet, but I got a new theory about the Titanic. Just throwing that out there. So after all of this went down, for nearly 20 years, the French blue lay in rumor and shadow. Then, out of nowhere, in the early 19th century, a large blue diamond appeared in London markets, now recut and reduced farther down in size. Careful archival work, laser scans of museum casts, and modern modeling have shown how the French blue could have been recut and yielded to be the present-day Hope diamond, demonstrating not only the continuance of material, but a likely effort to disguise the identity of the diamond after it was stolen. Researchers used 3D modeling of pre-revolution sketches, measurements of the current diamond, and cutting reconstructions to show the Hope fits back into the French blue's original shape. A technical confirmation that ended much speculation about whether the two stones were the same. So they're like, yeah, it's smaller, but it's here. Now, even before modern analysis, rumor attached new layers of misfortune to the stone's absence and reappearance. Tales of boats being lost at sea that were carrying the gem, of buyers ruined by sudden bankruptcy, and of jewelers who vanished after attempting to cut or sell the stone.
That's wild.
Right? Like, so much attached to this one stone, and we don't know, is it actually cursed?
Right.
Or is it all just a giant coincidence?
Mhm.
I'm not a big believer of coincidences myself,
Right.
but to each their own. So part of the reason these stories spread so effectively was the stone's physical strangeness, obviously. Blue diamonds are chemically unusual. Their color derives from very tiny amounts of boron substituted into the diamond lattice, making them a type IIB diamond and giving them an almost metallic steely blue color with an unusual red phosphorus color under ultraviolet light.
Oh, that sounds pretty.
Yeah, so if you take a genuine blue diamond, which they're rare,
Mhm.
you take a genuine blue diamond and you put it under an ultraviolet light, you're gonna see like red colors within it. Isn't
That's
that
wild.
crazy?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's nuts. I knew that they were rare, but I didn't know like under a different light it would be red until I looked all this up. It's nuts. So properties like this in earlier eras read as magical, and they fed the superstition theory around them. Modern gem science today explains why the hope looks and behaves the way in which it does. That technical explanation, however, has not erased the older narratives of curse and coincidence. By the time the now, once again, recut stone worked its way into the European collection in the 1800s, later to then be purchased by the Hope family and thus renamed the Hope Diamond, its legend was very well established. It was a jewel born in sacred Indian soil, shaped for European royalty, stolen in a revolution, and then resurfaced in an altered form with a trail of ruin left behind in its wake. Whether one treats those stories as literal supernatural caution or as the magnification of some consequence in human psychology, the pattern is unmistakable. Every major chapter of the diamond's earliest life, discovery, royal possession, violent theft, disappearance, and reemergence, added another brushstroke to a portrait that people would read as ominous. The stone had by this time become not just a gem, but a story that seemed to reach out and change the lives of all of those who touched it. Some modern historians and gemologists, which I didn't even know that was a thing.
Mm-mm.
That's a job.
That's wild. They probably make good money too.
Like, right, they probably do. Like just sitting around checking out gems all day. Sign me up.
Hell yeah.
That'll be a job for Daxton because he loves rocks and gems.
Oh, he would do really good with that.
Oh yeah. He's like all about that. Well, he's got like a whole freaking rock and gem collection.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'm gonna tell him that. I'm gonna tell him about that job and I'll
You
tell you what he
should.
says.
Yeah, let me know.
Yep, I will. He'll be like, "What?" Okay, anyway, sorry. So these modern historians and gemologists caution against rushing to supernatural conclusions, though. Much of the quote curse is the work of rumor, sensational press, and human tendency to find patterns. The diamond's fame made every misfortune in its orbit far more memorable. Confirmation bias and dramatic storytelling amplified ordinary tragedy into legend. Yet, even scholars who emphasize these human mechanisms admit the social power of the legend. When a jewel carries a story as loud as the hopes, the story itself becomes an actor, shaping behavior, attributing obsessive attention, and producing the very misfortunes that fuel it. In short, even if the curse is a product of folklore, that folklore has had real consequences.
Ooh.
So, this layered origin, the geology, sacred lore, imperial display, dramatic theft, and modern scientific sleuthing is what gives the Hope Diamond its steep, ambivalent presence in history. It is a stone that has been named and renamed, carved and recut, hidden and displayed. It has been called the Tavernier Blue, the French Blue, and finally the Hope Diamond. And with each name, that legend has grew. The early chapters from Golconda to Tavernier to Louis XIV to the Gardie Mabel theft all gives us everything we know for the rest of the story. Rarity, beauty, political violence, and a trail of personal misfortune that will follow the gem into new hands. So after the French blue vanished in the upheavals of 1792, the stone story enters a very long and uncertain interlude. For nearly 2 decades, the gem existed in rumor more than fact. Whispers of its presence in a ship's hold, private vaults, and shadowy dealers. Then in 1812, a pivotal documentary moment occurred. A London jeweler named Daniel Eliason recorded a striking deep blue diamond in his possession, and he allowed for an illustration and description to be made. That 1812 appearance, documented in sketches and account books of the time, was the first concrete public glimpse of what would become the modern day Hope Diamond. The reappearance of a smaller size, now cut down to around 44 to 45 carats, fit the hypothesis that the blue French had been secretly recut to disguise the stone after the Revolution. This gap in sudden reemergence fed public imagination. The diamond had not vanished so much as it had been reborn in secrecy. Over the next decades, the gem circulated through aristocratic and merchant hands until it entered the collection of Henry Philip Hope, a Dutch-born British collector and scion of the wealthy Hope banking family. Henry Hope was a renowned connoisseur of gems and works of art. His cabinet of curiosities was famous among Europe's collectors. It was Henry, and his family name, that stamped the jewel's modern identity. Once it was taken and embedded into the Hope collection. The blue diamond would now forever be known as the Hope Diamond. The association cemented the stone's identity to public records and produced a direct line between the jewel and the fortunes of one of Europe's storied dynasties. But the Hope family story is not a simple tale of steady wealth. While Henry Philip Hope himself cultivated a reputation as a tasteful and careful collector, later generations struggled with financial instability and public scandal, details that Victorian newspapers eagerly amplified. By the late 19th century, the most notorious figure associated with the gem was Lord Francis Hope. He had inherited the diamond only to see his life completely unravel. Francis was a charismatic but imprudent aristocrat, gambling losses, ill-advised investments, and a speculatory, troubled marriage to the American actress May Yohe, believe that's how you say her name, who had drained his fortunes and precipitated scandal. Their marriage, marked by public disputes and eventual divorce, was foddered for sensational press. By 1901, Francis was forced to sell the Hope Diamond to satisfy his debts. A dramatic transfer that seemed to many to be a visible sign that the jewel had doomed the family's prospects. Victorian London's cultural climate amplified these stories. The 19th century was an age obsessed with both accumulation and meaning. Empire produced unprecedented wealth and objects, while parallel fascination with the supernatural, like spiritualism, seances, and spirit photography, offered frameworks for reading moral lessons into material success and failure. In this environment, the Hope Diamond was a perfect talisman. Its exotic provenance, royal past, and southern rule in an aristocratic ruin made it a ready symbol for journalists and novelists who were eager to conflate moral failing with supernatural retribution. Reports from the period mixed fact and fiction, as a lot of these old stories do. Royal bankruptcies, and divorces alongside whispered claims that the gem emitted a strange chill, induced headaches, or even caused fainting spells in those who handled it for too long.
That's insane.
Yeah. So popular myths occurred quickly and stuck even after they were questioned by scholars. One reoccurring claim is that the diamond glowed or changed colors. This is believed to most likely come as an embellishment of a real and unusual physical property. So, the type of diamond that the Hope is, as I said earlier, it contains traces of boron, which gives that rare blue color. And then under ultraviolet light, it gives off the red phosphorence color. So, according to scholars, they say that's why back then it was believed to have changed color, but it
Mm.
didn't actually change. Yeah. To the 19th century eyes, though, this could be described as an eerie internal fire, which is really cool, to be honest.
Yeah, it is.
So other tales insisted that the stone drained validity from its owners or triggered feverish illnesses. Explanations that mixed medical ignorance, rumor, and the era's appetite for Gothic storytelling. In short, science and sensationalism overlapped. Physical oddities became proof for many that something supernatural was definitely afoot with this diamond. So the press narrative was self reinforcing. Every real misfortune among the Hopes, whether it be financial collapse, personal scandal, early deaths, all of these were swiftly linked in the newspaper to the diamond's presence within that specific household. So whether the jewel was causative or coincidental, public perception hardened. The Hope Diamond was not merely a valuable object, but an omen, a moral tale given from gemstone form. That cultural framing mattered. It shaped how owners behaved, how the public watched them, and how future historians would remember those events. So by the time Lord Francis had sold the diamond in 1901, it had become an international object of rumor and curiosity, valued not only for its carats in color, but for the stories that were attached to it. The sale itself was messy, moving the gem from aristocratic hands into the market of international dealers, where it would reemerge in new context. Cartier, wealthy American buyers, and eventually the storied jewelers and collectors whose names would add further chapters to the Hope's long ledger of misfortune and fascination. So when the Hope diamond finally reemerged from the fog of post-revolution rumor, it it did so not in some royal court, but in the bustling world of 19th century and early 20th century commerce, the glittering salons and jewelers showrooms of Europe, and then eventually America. By the early 1900s, the stone had become more than a European curiosity. It was a transatlantic prize, a gem with a story that sold itself. Dealers and jewelers recognized that the lure had made the stone irresistible to the newly wealthy Americans who wanted not only value, but narrative and pedigree with their possessions. Because, we won't even open that can of worms. So, this opportunity was not lost on Pierre Cartier, scion of the famous French jewelry house. Cartier understood two things instinctively. The Hope Diamond's history made it a sensation, and American heiresses in the Gilded Age adored extravagance. Cartier orchestrated the diamond's appearance in the United States with marketing skills bordering on showmanship. He displayed and remounted the stone in Paris, then brought it to New York. He even arranged private viewings and used the diamond as an exclusive temptation, famously leaving the stone with prospective buyers or allowing an extended private viewing so an owner could fall in love with it in the privacy of home. It was a sales tactic equal it was a sales tactic that was equal parts charm and theater. That tactic would pay off when the Hope Diamond entered the orbit of Evelyn Wash McLean, Mc, yeah, McLean and her husband, Edward Ned McLean, wealthy heirs of newspaper fortune and mining money. Pierre Cartier sold the gem to the McLeans in 1911, commonly reported as being finalized in the early part of 1912. So one of those 2 years, like the end of 11, beginning of 12, right in there, for roughly $180,000.
Woof.
Okay, so today, this would equal $6,120,910.
Holy shit, that's fucking insane.
Yep, we will never see that amount of money in our entire lives, and these motherfuckers bought a diamond with that much.
Right. Like, let's just throw it away. It's okay.
Right. Yep. This was an enormous sum of money at the time, and it was a dazzling public coup for Cartier's brand. So Evelyn, the quintessential American heiress of the era, she was flamboyant, theatrical, and unimpressed by superstition, reportedly refused to be frightened off by the legend of a curse. She wore the gem boldly, even joking about it, and treating it as a spectacular accessory. She had it affixed to a tiara, then mounted it to a necklace, and sometimes even wore it in ways that scandalized the polite society who preferred their jewels be under glass rather than worn. Yet the McLean's ownership is the chapter most often cited when people tell the curse of the Hope Diamond. Evelyn's life, long in public, included heartbreaks and tragedies that were widely reported and later woven into the lore. So tragedy first struck the McLean family in stark and unmistakable ways. Their young son, Vincent, was killed in an automobile accident in 1919. This was a blow that devastated the entire family. Evelyn's social life splintered, her marriage dissolved, and later generations faced addictions, early deaths, and financial collapse that would strip away much of the family's wealth.
All for a diamond.
Right. Yep. No, thank you. I'm good.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I'll look at it, but I don't want it.
Mm-mm.
Journalists, gossip columnists, and later popular retellings linked these things to the presence of the Hope Diamond in her household. They would sometimes quote Evelyn's own defiant remarks about the legend as if they had cataloged the mounting losses around her. The McLean's behavior around the stone added to that mystique. Evelyn was famously cavalier with it. Stories tell of her letting her pet dog wander the house wearing the diamond on a collar.
What?
Yeah. Could you imagine seeing a fucking dog with a collar with a 45-carat diamond on it?
That's fucking insane, dude.
There were other stories of her just tucking the stone into the couch cushions for safekeeping. Let me just hide this in here.
Yeah, he'll be okay.
Yep. Of wearing it while she went swimming and of treating it as a talisman of her social position rather than an artifact that should be kept behind glass. Whether it was from love, denial, or kind of rebellion against superstition, her handling of the gem made her irresistible copy and fan the flames of the cursed narrative. Critics later questioned whether such public intimacy with a world famous jewel made accidents and family misfortunes more likely to be noticed and sensationalized. But for the public, it was proof positive that the stone was a dangerous object and that it should not be messed with. So, beyond the McLeans, jewelers, caretakers, and museum staff over the decades have contributed to a different kind of testimony anecdotal, personal, and often ambiguous. Jewelers who reset or examined the stone reported being awed or unnerved by its presence. Caretakers and curators told stories of inexplicable chill spots, moments of dizziness, or an odd heaviness in the room when the diamond was present.
That's too much for me.
Yeah, no, thank you. Smithsonian curators and mineralogists in later years have treated such anecdotes with a blend of respect for the folklore and a bit of scientific skepticism. The gem's unusual physical properties, so its steel blue color that came from the born impurities, the red phosphorants under the ultraviolet light, all can produce an eerie visual effect that lend themselves to the supernatural interpretation. But human expectation and the storytellings shape how those moments are remembered and reported, whether fact or fiction, or partially both. So there's a technical explanation and an experimental one, both that feed the exact same legend. Meanwhile, the public fascination again translates into headlines and theatrical retellings. The sales, the parades of high society wearing the stone, the McLean's personal tragedies created a narrative arc newspapers loved. Because who can resist a story like this?
Right.
Here was a treasure both aspirational and punitive. As the McLeans fell into scandal and financial difficulties, the stone shifted context from private badge of pedigree to a gruesome emblem of loss. Each retelling added another layer of caution in the public's mind. The diamond did not merely exist, it acted. Owners, caretakers, and even peripheral acquaintances were all folded into an expanding ledger of misfortune, whether the links were casual or purely coincidental. So by the time the diamond left the McLean orbit, ultimately to then be sold after Evelyn's death and later acquired by famed New York jeweler Harry Winston, who famously donated it to the Smithsonian in 1958, the hope carried with it an almost cinematic biography, an item that had crossed continents, catalyzed scandal, survived theft and reinvention, and seemed to cure tragedy like a pinata. Its American chapter, especially the McLean years, was the point at which the hoax stopped being merely European legend and became an object of mass market mythology. a jewel whose story was told in newspapers, novels, and the anecdotes of every jeweler who had ever polished a facet of it. So, what do we make of that collision of spectacle and sorrow? For some, the McLean years, with their public display, private suffering, and tabloid hunger, are a perfect demonstration of how human narratives create curses. For others, the string of losses that followed the diamond's owners is too consistent and too heartbreaking to be mere coincidence. In the end, the Atlantic crossing turned the hope from a royal curiosity into a cultural icon, a jewel wrapped in history, commerce, showmanship, grief, and the very human tendency to find meaning where we most want it to exist. So in 1958, the Hope Diamond began a new chapter, one that would transform it from a private jewel into a public icon. Harry Winston, the legendary New York jeweler who had acquired the stone after Evelyn Wash McLean's death, had made a decision that would ensure the diamond's permanence into American culture. He donated it to the Smithsonian Institute's National Museum of National History. His intention here was simple, at least it was on the surface anyway, to share a gem of unparalleled beauty with the public. But for those that know its history, this act was more of a gamble. After centuries of misfortune and whispered curses, the Hope Diamond was moving into the hands of a national institution, visible to anyone who could walk through the museum doors. Would that curse follow, or would it finally be quieted if it was in this place? For decades, the diamond has been on nearly continuous display, encased safely behind the bulletproof glass of a specifically designed, temperature controlled setting. Visitors from around the world flock here to see the stone, drawn by both its dazzling blue fire and its legendary past. Unlike private owners who once carried the jewel, the diamond no longer resides in a household where accidents and misfortune could be directly attributed to its presence. Here, the curse seems almost dormant, more of a story rather than a threat. But still, the aura of unease surrounding the diamond has not entirely disappeared. Even today, museum goers occasionally report subtle, uncanny experiences. Some describe a sudden chill when standing near the display case, a momentary shiver that feels inexplicable even in the air conditioned halls. Others notice the diamond's peculiar way of catching light under certain angles. Its blue hue can appear almost unnaturally deep. Shadows seem to flicker across the facets that seem to shift in ways defying the geometry of the cut. A few claim that glancing at the stone produces a fleeting sense of motion within the gem, as if something is alive beneath the surface. These reports are infrequent, often anecdotal, yet they are consistent enough that museum staff and longtime visitors speak of the hope with an almost reverent caution. Employees who have spent years maintaining the display have their own stories as well. Some have felt a presence while cleaning or inspecting the diamond, an inexplicable sensation that they describe as being watched or something hovering in the room. Security personnel occasionally report brief, inexplicable reflections on the glass or flashes of light that appear when no one else is around. While skeptics point to lighting, optical illusions, and the power of expectation as natural explanations, others feel that the diamond carries an energy that is difficult to rationalize, a psychic echo of the centuries of tragedy, obsession, and wealth that it has witnessed. Paranormal investigators and enthusiasts have long speculated about the Hope's residual energies. Some claim that the gem stores the psychic impressions of its former owners, the grief of a mother who lost a child, the panic of a monarch facing revolution, the heartbreak of an American heiress witnessing her family's decline. Others propose, though, that the diamond itself, by virtue of its rare crystalline structure and born induced color, can produce electromagnetic anomalies or sudden changes in the environment that affect perception. Whether these phenomena are physical or purely psychological, the reports add to the diamond's mystique. The hope is not just a jewel to look at, it is a presence to be felt. The contrast between historical tragedies and the modern era is striking. Where kings, aristocrats, and wealthy collectors once suffered deaths, bankruptcies, and scandal, the, the Smithsonian provides a controlled environment where the diamond's destructive potential seems to have been neutralized. Visitors come here, they admire its beauty without fear of immediate catastrophe, and yet the stories of Evelyn Wash McLean, the Hope family, and the French royals linger in the imagination. That tension, the serene display versus the violent, tragic history, contribute to the diamond's continuing fascination. And even today, some insist that the Hope's curse is simply dormant, not gone. It is no longer striking heirs or unleashing disasters, but it continues to captivate, inspire, and unsettle. The diamond has moved from private obsession to collective spectacle. Yet it retains that aura of a story unfinished, a jewel with memory, a piece of history that witnesses silently and brilliantly the lives of millions of strangers who pass before it each year. Ultimately, the Smithsonian era has allowed the Hope Diamond to become a cultural and scientific treasure. It is admired for its size, clarity, and vibrant blue brilliance, studied for its mineralogical uniqueness, and experienced by millions as a relic of history and legend. Yet, even in this public sanctuary, the whispers of misfortune, the flickers of light, and the moments of unease serve as a reminder that the diamond's legacy is more than ornamental. It is a story that continues to echo across centuries, a link between wealth and tragedy, human ambition and cosmic accident, and a legend that remains alive, dazzling, and dangerous for anyone who dares to look closely. Throughout its long, storied history, the Hope Diamond has been associated with a remarkable number of tragedies, accidents, and misfortunes, both of those who owned it and those who merely came into contact with it. Its ominous reputation begins in India with the Golconda mines, where legends warned that removing a diamond from sacred ground could invoke divine punishment. From its earliest days, the diamond seemed to carry a weight beyond its physical presence, and each new chapter in its journey has added layers to that legend. Even after John Baptiste Tavernier transported it to Europe, ominous reports followed. Tavernier himself allegedly met a grisly end, being mauled by dogs during an expedition in Russia, a tale that set the precedent for the dark pattern associated with the stone. Once in France, the diamond became the French blue worn by King Louis XIV and later his heirs. Personal tragedies, including the early deaths of the Dauphin and two of his sons, as well as the beheading of King Louis XIV and Marie Antoinette during the French Revolution, cemented the diamond's reputation as a harbinger of misfortune. Those involved in the theft and handling of the French blue, from guards to jewelers, also reportedly suffered violent or mysterious ends, reinforcing the narrative that the diamond did not discriminate between royalty and ordinary people. Once recut and renamed the Hope Diamond, the stone entered the hands of Thomas Hope in London, and within a few decades, the Hope family experienced financial difficulties, premature deaths, and social scandals that seemed to coincide with the diamond's presence. Victorian society buzzed with rumors of a curse, amplified by the popularity of spiritualism, seances, and ghost stories. Accounts of faint energy emitting from the stone, sudden illnesses, and inexplicable accidents became part of the lore. The diamond had transformed from a mere jewel to a symbol of seductive beauty intertwined with disaster. Then, when the diamond crossed the Atlantic to America, its legend grew darker still. Purchased by Pierre Cartier for socialite Evelyn Wash McLean, the Hope Diamond now entered the orbit of New York. She herself suffered the tragic deaths of her son, husband, and close friends, all of which have been attributed to the diamond's malevolent influence. Beyond her family, friends, employees, and jewelers associated with the diamond reported accidents, sudden illness, and eerie sensations while handling it. Servants and caretakers have spoken of ghostly footsteps, objects moving without explanation, and feelings of being watched or burdened by a heavy, invisible presence. The diamond has a long history of affecting those nearby, not just its owners. Accounts from jewelers, employees, and museum staff all describe sudden vertigo, dizziness, or fainting spells when working near it. Some have reported strange electrical malfunctions, compasses spinning unpredictably, and lights flickering near the diamond's display. Even security guards at the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History have described unusual shadows, a feeling of oppressive weight, or glimpses of figures in the corner of their vision, unseen but felt like a lingering memory of past misfortunes. Those that visit the Smithsonian, too, have reported those sensations, and they seem to border on the line of supernatural. You'll hear them describe chills, goosebumps, or sudden sense of unease when near the diamond. Some see reflections inside the display glass, shapes, faces, or figures that seem to vanish once approached. Psychics and spiritualists have long asserted that the diamond carries residual energy from its turbulent past, grief, anger, and despair imprinted into its crystalline structure. A psychic imprint that can be sensed by the sensitive or the unwary. Some report dreams or premonitions after being near the diamond, suggesting that its influence extends beyond the physical realm. Even minor handlers of the diamond have experienced misfortune. Employees of Cartier, jewelers who examined it, and even auction houses involved in its sale have all suffered sudden accidents, illnesses, or financial losses. The diamond seems to have a reach that affects all who come into contact with it, whether it be directly or indirectly. Historical accounts suggest that those who ignore the stone's stories, its past, or treated it with casual familiarity often became its next victim, reinforcing the idea that respect, or even fear, is an essential component of surviving its influence. Ultimately, the Hope Diamond has become an object of fascination not only for its immense size and breathtaking color, but for the dark, layered history that it embodies. Its legacy spans continents, centuries, and social classes, consistently tied to misfortune, unexplained accidents, and eerie paranormal phenomena. From the mines of India to the courts of France, the drawing rooms of London, and finally the halls of the Smithsonian, the diamond has never been just a jewel. It is a magnet for human obsession, tragedy, and stories of the unexplained. A cursed treasure whose legend continues to captivate and terrify in equal measure. The Hope Diamond has never been just a diamond. It's never been just a jewel. The diamond itself is a story, one that has leapt off from the crown jewels, the salons of wealthy collectors, and the halls of museums, and has embedded itself into popular culture from the moment that it was found. From the newspapers in Victorian London to the Hollywood silver screen, the diamond's history of misfortune and tragedy has captivated storytellers for centuries. It became a shorthand for beauty tinged with danger, a symbol of wealth that comes with a price, and a supernatural talisman whose reputation outshone even its incredible physical allure. As early as the 19th century, newspapers chronicled every misfortune of the Hope family, linking them all the way back to the diamond's arrival. Journalists painted the stone not just as a jewel, but as an agent of fate. Readers were enthralled by tales of sudden deaths, bankruptcies, bizarre accidents, all tied to the same inanimate object. This was all done in an era when spiritualism and seances were in vogue. The stories then took on an almost religious quality, blending human fascination with the macabre. The public didn't just see a beautiful gemstone, they saw a story, one that spanned dynasties, decades, continents, and every disaster possible. One that seemed to whisper warnings with every single article they read. Hollywood itself quickly picked up on the diamond's dramatic appeal. Though no major film has been documented about the Hope Diamond itself, the Hope Diamond seems to appear in several Hollywood shows. One being the Titanic. the diamond became an archetype, a glittering object whose beauty masks hidden peril, whose ownership brings intrigue, obsession, or death. Screenwriters and authors leaned into that idea of the diamond, showing up in their show, in their movie, their books, so on. Each of these fictionalized accounts often reference historical misfortunes. So, in the Titanic, you have the diamond on board.
Mhm.
So, did the diamond cause the Titanic to crash? Or was that something Hollywood did to sensationalize and bank on the Hope Diamond's history?
Right.
Magazines and books devoted to the paranormal have also ensured that the diamond's reputation lives on. Paranormal enthusiasts frequently cite the Hope Diamond in discussions of haunted objects, cursed jewelry, and items that are said to carry that residual energy. Psychic investigators claim that the gem carries echoes of its past, as I said, that the tragic events of its owners have left its impression, and those that are sensitive are able to feel that. Stories of visions, sudden chills, and feelings of unease around the diamond in museums or private collections are retold over and over again, reinforcing that belief. Even social media today continues this pattern, where anecdotes and historical summaries perpetuate fascination and fear. Collectors, both real and fictional, have contributed to this myth. Evelyn McLean, whose personal life was already extraordinary, became inseparable from the story of the Hope Diamond. Every unusual event in her life, whether it was a car accident, an illness, or the death of someone close to her, was all quickly framed as part of the diamond's curse. Writers, journalists, and storytellers have all seized those narratives, creating a mosaic of tragedy linked to this one single object. The diamond's appeal to the imagination has always been amplified by human tendency to find patterns in misfortune, to connect events across time and geography, and to see intention where it may just be coincidence. The Smithsonian Institute's acquisition of the Hope Diamond in 1958 added just another layer of that. With millions of visitors now able to see it in person, this diamond transcends private fascination and enters the collective consciousness. Photographs of the gem, television features, and museum guides, stories have all contributed to that aura. Visitors report tingling sensation, feelings of being watched, or inexplicable chills near the gem. Experiences that are frequently amplified by the knowledge of its history. Here is where culture and folklore meet direct human experience, a centuries old narrative given a tangible, observable form in modern age. The diamond has inspired art, jewelry reproductions, and merchandise, each item referencing the storied past of the Hope Diamond. It is as much as a symbol as it is a gem. It is a warning, a marvel, and a source of inspiration. Its color, size, and mysterious aura ensure that it captivates the imagination, while its stories of misfortune remind us that beauty and peril are often intertwined. Authors, filmmakers, and historians continue to reference it, perpetuating a cycle where legend fuels fascination and fascination fuels legend. Ultimately, the cultural impact of the Hope Diamond is inseparable from its history. The tales of cursed owners, mysterious deaths, and eerie experiences have created a narrative far larger than the gemstone itself. It has become a symbol of the seductive danger of wealth, the unpredictability of fortune, and the way human imagination can elevate an object into legend. And as this story continues to be told through films, books, and so on, the Hope Diamond remains not just a jewel, but an icon of intrigue, fear, and fascination. A cursed beauty whose tale seems destined to endure as long as humans are drawn to the mysteries and the magnificent. The reputation of the Hope Diamond as a cursed jewel owes as much to storytelling and media as it does real life incidents today. From the 19th century and onward, everyone has been eager to publish and know the sensational accounts of the diamond's alleged misfortunes. Headlines often tied family misfortune, untimely deaths, financial ruin directly to this one jewel. These stories were then amplified by the public's fascination with royalty, wealth, and exotic treasures. Even small tragedies became fodder of the legend, reinforcing the perception that the diamond was more than just a gemstone. It was a harbinger of doom. By the early 20th century, it became a mainstay in popular culture. So, in effect, the media hasn't just reported the Hope Diamond story, it's shaped it. The more the diamond appears in stories of misfortune and superstition, the more the legend grew. Each retelling, whether in print, on screen, or in museum interpretation, it's added layers to the narrative. The cursed jewel became larger than life itself. Its history is intertwined with imagination and spectacle. Today, anyone who sees the Hope Diamond or reads about it knows its legend before even stepping into the museum. Proof that media has transformed a gemstone into an icon of mystery, fear, and fascination. Finally, the media's influence continues in pop culture. Social media posts, YouTube, online articles all reinforce this curse. They all use dramatic imagery, historical reenactments, and personal accounts. For many, those stories provide the first encounter with the Hope Diamond legend, and then you just kind of go into a deep dive from there. As we went through tonight, the Hope Diamond is far more than a gemstone. From its origins in the Golconda mines of India to the opulent courts of France, through the hands of wealthy collectors, and finally to the Smithsonian halls. Its story is intertwined with wealth, power, beauty, and ultimately tragedy. Its deep, mesmerizing blue has captivated humans for centuries, and with that beauty seems to come a darkness, misfortunes, untimely death, strange accidents, and the whispers of a curse that refuses to fade. So, whether you view the Hope Diamond as a magnet for misfortune or as a symbol of human obsession and greed, one thing is undeniable: it has left its mark on history. Kings, queens, bankers, socialites, and even museum visitors have all felt its pull, whether that's through admiration, unease, or inexplicable phenomena. The legends, the tragedies, the eerie reports are all part of what makes this gem one of the most fascinating and unsettling objects in the world. So today, even though it rests under glass in a public museum, the Hope Diamond continues to draw that attention, not just for its beauty, but for the stories it carries. The line between fact and folklore here blur, and the gem reminds us that some objects seem to carry the echoes of those who have touched them, the weight of history, and perhaps even something beyond our understanding. So, as we step away from the tale of this cursed jewel, remember that some treasures are more than they appear to be. They shine with brilliance, yes, but they also reflect the shadows of the past, the tragedies of their owners, and the enduring fascination of the human imagination.
That's wild about that. I like the Titanic too.
Isn't that crazy?
Mhm.
So I don't know. So I don't think the Hope Diamond was actually on the Titanic, to be honest. I really don't. So that was just something that they kind of like sensationalized on,
Mhm.
but I feel like maybe that's why.
Right.
Because you decided to say some shit about the diamond that wasn't true.
Could be.
But that's just me. Yep, that's it. That's the Hope Diamond.
That was cool.
Yep. Whether it's cursed or not, I don't know.
Sounds like it.
Good story either way.
Yeah,
I know, I think it's cursed too.
I do too.
I'm not a big believer in coincidences, and that's a lot of tragedy
Yeah,
around that one object.
it really is.
I think they screwed up and took it out of the mine when they shouldn't have, and so
Mhm.
now everybody's cursed.
They're paying for it.
Yep, that's what I think. All right. That's it, guys. The Curse of the Hope Diamond.
Interesting.
It's a good one. I thought it was a little fun one to do before Friday.
It was interesting.
Dang it. So let me see. So, guys, remember Friday we have this week's extra episode. We're gonna dive into some tales that might make you think twice about what lies beneath the surface.
Oh,
Yep. So you won't want to miss that one. Mandy will be talking a little bit more on Friday's episode.
Oh, yay.
So come back on Friday. You can hear Mandy tell us a few stories. So that's all I got. You got anything?
No.
All right. Well, make sure you come back on Friday for that one. Be sure to give us a rate and a review. Make sure you're subscribed. You have your little bell notification on. So you are notified when you get these new episodes. Let me see. Don't forget to check out our Patreon that we now have, because you never know what we might give you this season. So with all of that, we hope you keep listening and remember to
Watch for monsters.
and don't kill people. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.